up to the Andes at the other, and crammed into that 100 kilometers, you've got this unbelievable range of climates, soils, landscapes, altitude, just everything. And then on top of that, you've got many different families growing grapes and making wines. And when we talk about terroir, you hear about Kelvyn and me and sommeliers mentioning terroir. And what's really important is to know that, certainly from my side, I would say it's almost 50.5% the people. They have the influence on the terroir. You know, the soil, the rain, the sunlight, the wind, everything is important. But it's what you do with it. It's what grape varieties you plant there, how you plant them, why you plant them, when you pick them, how do you treat the vines. And that's the amazing thing that I've learned with the Silvas and with Arnaud, that they just never, ever stop learning. Every year, unlike, we've had this great explosion of gin in this country, and that's a joy. You can make a batch one day and you don't like it, you can make a batch the next day, and that's great. In wine, you get one chance every year. So you have to get every single bit of information out of the vines, the grapes. Ultimately, it's down to tasting, but that's really what happens. You always ask questions, and if you go out to Casa Silva, you'll see the family there involved in every single part of the winemaking. Although the actual brand Casa Silva started in '96, the family, as Arnaud said earlier, we're now into the 6th generation of the Silva family. Now sort of part of this grapes dynasty. So it sort of started back in about 1912 when the vineyards were first planted, Angostura, going right through to now. But it wasn't about '96 when the brand itself came about, when they stopped selling their wines to other larger brands to export, and they thought, hang on, we've got something pretty special here. And that's really when the name Casa Silva appeared. But there was about nearly 100 years of experience in vine growing and winemaking before then. So it's there's a lot going on here. But I think the important thing is now is to taste a wine. So I think some of us have already done that. So I've been trying to be very good and not drink all of the bottles. So there's a bit left for me to drink. If I fall off my seat, I started a long time ago. But hopefully not too bad. But the white wine we have here is a Sauvignon Gris, and it's a little bit. I just thought, what a great chance to see something a little bit different. We all know about Sauvignon Blanc from Chile, from New Zealand, and that's great. We've seen it everywhere. But Sauvignon Gris is something really, really very different. If anyone who knows the Bordeaux region, Sauvignon Gris is part of the white Bordeaux mix. So it's blended with Sauvignon Blanc, Muscadel, and Sauvignon Gris, and it's all very much part of that mix, but rarely seen, and we rarely hear about it. I remember when I first went out to Casa Silva in whenever it was 2000, 2001, 2002, and they literally just discovered the Sauvignon Gris vines at the old estate in Angostura. Previously, they'd been just all mixed up with the Sauvignon Blanc, and it was I think Arnaud can correct me, but there was a very old parcel of it very near the winery, which was very obviously Sauvignon Gris, but until you know it, you never really know to treat it differently. And the grapes themselves are slightly opaque. They have they're slightly gris, as in the name, a slightly opaque texture, whereas the Sauvignon Blanc is much greener and brighter. And really, the wine itself is wonderfully different. We had Ian beautifully describing it earlier. Actually, but one thing I would love to say, that the great thing about these tastings is that we invite every emotion, feeling, smell that you get tonight, say it. The great thing about not being in a room with hundreds of people is that I think our inhibitions are reduced a little bit. I mean, I don't know how many people are wearing shorts and flip-flops. I certainly am. Whereas we'd be probably all be very smartly dressed if we were all standing there. Well done, fantastic. Yep, I think we're all wearing shorts. That's very good. But the great thing about this is it's so important that everybody says exactly what they smell, what they feel on the palate, because wine is so personal. We'll go through a few set things of what we can actually notice in a wine, the various things we can all recognize. But other than that, it's aromas, as much memories as anything else, and flavors. If we'd done this tasting at 8 o'clock this morning, it would be very different to now. Not, obviously I didn't start till 9, so it was a ridiculous thing to say. But it's such a personal thing when we taste, how we taste. So I just invite everybody to say exactly what they think. We want real honesty here. That's the most important thing. Get rid of the myths of having wine snobs and saying this is how you taste it. Just express your mind. That's the most important thing. But the Sauvignon Gris here, we'll go through the sort of technical tasting of it. In a white wine, you don't really get that much from the appearance, other than the fact that hasn't got bits in it. It's not brown, it's not bubbly. So that just by looking at it tells you there's not too much wrong with it. It's a nice, beautiful, pale, yellowy green color, but no obvious bubbles. So all fine from the appearance. We take it up to the nose, and I can sit here and say I'm getting some really green citrus fruits and pale flowers, whatever you want, or stone fruits. It doesn't really matter. What I get is a real sort of freshness leaping out of the glass, and we look at really more the style of the aroma than anything else. Is it something we think is developed? Is it sort of fruits that have developed into sort of, I don't know, earthy, woody, nutty elements to it? But for me, this wine is certainly still very fresh, very youthful. I'm getting all those sort of fruity, flowery, whatever you're getting. It's very much those primary aromas. But there's lots going on there. It's the great thing about this. It makes you want to dive in and give it a taste. And that's what the nose is all about. It just tempts you to have a sip. So let's do that. Let's jump in.
Is it related, Johnny, to Sauvignon Blanc? Because obviously I'm getting very similar characteristics to that Sauvignon sort of style of wine. Is there a sort of a family resemblance there? Are they related?
I mean, ultimately, as Arnaud will say, that every vine that we drink at times is vitis vinifera, but it's a very clearly defined separate vine and separate grape. But yes, I think in terms of the style, you're getting that sort of. As we taste it, we'll notice a really pronounced acidity. But weirdly, even though there are similar traits, there are a lot of real differences to this wine, to this grape variety. So you could taste it straight away and think, oh, this is quite similar. And yes, it is. But then if you sort of go down a little bit deeper, you can find some really significant differences. But yes, it is somewhere down the line. There is a close relation. Obviously, we've had it mixed up for several years. So, but I think I'll just give it a quick taste. Actually, I'm not driving you it, so I don't need to spit up. Sorry, Arnaud. That's the one thing we've got over you tonight. You've got 30 degrees and sunshine. At least we don't have to spit out the wine, so that's good. But the key thing with any wine, we'll go through the real basics in tasting. The tip of the tongue, you get whether it's sweet or dry or sweet. That's where you recognise the sugar in the wine. And whenever you see on a list, wine list or a wine tasting notes, residual sugar. Basically, that's just the wine, that's the sugar that's left over after the yeast has fermented the sugar in the grape into alcohol. So this is one of the many, after already there have been many hundreds of decisions to make, it's one of the decisions you will make as a winemaker. Which yeast do you use to ferment this level of sugar? How dry do you want to make it? Do you want to take it to 0 grams or half a gram of sugar per liter, or 1 or 2? These are all these decisions you make as a winemaker, and with Arnaud and with the family. These are you sit around and decide how are we going to make this wine based on what we did last year and the year before, and these are all crucial decisions. This wine itself, I think, Arnaud, you can correct me, I think it's about 1.8, 2 grams.
Yeah. It doesn't go beyond 2. Yeah, no. It's very dry.
It's very, very dry.
It does have a oily feeling into it, which makes it feel a little bit sweeter than it is actually, but it's really, really dry.
Definitely. I think what Arnaud said is brilliant. The big difference between this wine and Sauvignon Blanc is how much it fills your palate, how the roof of the mouth, the tongue, the side, everything is where it doesn't have that explosive green, herbaceous, almost over the top aromas of some Sauvignon Blancs. It's a bit more delicate, but actually how it fills your palate, and then actually the length of the flavor afterwards is really, really long. I mean, I'm still tasting this now, and for what we seemingly is a simple white wine, 25, 30 seconds after I've swallowed it. So I'm still getting that finish. And it has a real texture to it. It gives a real framework to the wine, and you can certainly, we're all noticing here now. As soon as I start talking about it, we'll notice it. But when we at the back of the throat here, the back of the tongue, when we get that mouth-watering sensation, that's what you really get from Sauvignon Gris. It really makes, that's what can happen. That's Sauvignon Gris. It's amazing acidity, but it's a really important part of this grape variety. So it's very interesting. It's almost less intense on the aromas and flavors than Sauvignon Blanc, but then it has almost a bigger structure, a bigger framework, and a longer finish. So it's that lovely combination of elegance in terms of flavors and aromas, but real concentration and depth and finish. And that makes it, certainly for me, a really, really interesting grape. And I remember, Arnaud, I remember first tasting this I'll be quite honest, Arnaud, first tasted this when it was made in 2003, 2004, and it smelt and tasted of nothing from Angostura. But you still had this big framework. And then I remember having the first wine from when the grapes were then planted in Paredones, where we are now. So on your little map here, we are on the black dot right out on the ocean here, about 6-7 kilometers from the Pacific Ocean. And it fantastic, like holding up there, very good. And it was, I think when it was planted in what, about 2000, 2003, Arnaud, was that right? Paradones by the Silvas?
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, there were different steps, but we started around 2002. We started in 2003, yes.
And there was nothing there. So as in Angostura, actually as in the Colchaguan Valley, as in Angostura, the Silvas were the first people to be there to discover these places, and it's all part of that desire to find something a bit different. And Paradones, it was just unbelievably remote. I remember being chasing Mario Gacy, the winemaker, suddenly said, "I want to show you Paradones," and we got lost in the wood, parked the car, and sort of ran for about, well, didn't run, we sort of climbed over fences looking for these vineyards that they'd planted. And you got this real sense of pioneering, and it was really exciting. And it wasn't until you didn't realize how close you were to the coast until you just went over almost the brow of the hill, and you saw you were just on the lee side of the coastal range, which is really important. So it is actually as close as you can be to the Pacific and still grow healthy vines. And as I think Arnaud loves the wind and the everything else you get from the ocean, but the vines, as tough as they are, just can't quite take that. So we are completely on the very much the edge of the valley, and we'll have heard of terms, the things like the Humboldt Current, which is the deep water which rises up to the coast, comes up quickly to the coast of Chile in this region, which brings in the cool air from the ocean. And then you see on the little arrows on the map, you can obviously get the winds from the Andes, although that has less effect here. It's more the Humboldt Current, and as Arnaud said, the coastal fogs which come in. But the key to this estate is that we're looking at maximum temperature of 23, 24, 25 degrees even in the summer. And that really is cool. I know for us in this country, that would be really warm, and we go, wow, amazing. But in Chile, this is significantly cooler. And if ever you get a chance to go there, you'll see this unbelievably bright sun. I mean, it's astonishing. You're in the car and you think, wow, you're going to get out into an oven, and it really does feel cool. And it's astonishing. And I think what Arnaud said and what he'll say again is that at this level of intense sunshine, what is so dramatic about this tiny part of Chile and many parts of Chile is the real much cooler weather you get, the cooler temperatures you get, but with this great intensity of sunshine. So the grapes love the sun. That's what we all need for ripening, for growing, but they don't like over intense heat. I think you get over 35, 36 degrees and the vines actually begin to shut down. So you can't just grow vines where it's hot and sunny all the time. This combination of cool weather but great sunshine is about as perfect as it gets. It's also unbelievably dry here. You can see behind me there's a nice big, it's actually not a lake, it's a reservoir, which I think I know is nearly all rain capture, isn't it? There's almost no water in Paradones at all.
For this area, you say it's pretty cool. I think for the wine itself, it's got a real ripeness about it. Where we talked about the thing about it being dry, but there's that sort of sweet element to it. The sweet element comes from this real ripeness from the fruit, and it really comes out of this. It's juicy. It's got some nice weight to it, but there's this fresh. You can almost get that sea breeze freshness that goes with it as well, and there's a fragrance that comes off it as you kind of off onto the nose. And it's wonderfully, well crafted for somewhere cool, like you say, Johnny. But I also think because of that, just that little bit of warmth that's in there, maybe from that microclimate there, it brings out this fruit. It really lifts it and gives it a really nice mouthfeel, smooth, weighty to it, bit of generosity to the body, and lovely freshness that sweeps all the way through. It's fantastic. Really enjoying it.
To come back to your question on about Sauvignon Blanc and Sauvignon Gris, it's in our vineyards everywhere we have Sauvignon Gris, we have Sauvignon Blanc just next to it, or even in the very old vineyards we have them together. Actually, we will harvest them separate, but they were planted together at the time. So we often have the opportunity, all the time, to taste a Sauvignon Blanc and a Sauvignon Gris from the very same terroir, because if you taste them from different places, it's difficult to judge properly. And what we see, if you blind taste the Sauvignon Gris, you will think it's a Sauvignon Blanc. You rarely think it's a Sauvignon Gris, but because it's family of Sauvignon Blanc. But when you compare them from the same place, the Sauvignon Blanc is always sharper. So that would maybe a little bit more aggressive, but it depends on what kind of food you will have. And the Sauvignon Gris has that a little bit more oily texture, a little bit more discreet on the nose, although aromatic, but not maybe not so punchy citrus. A little bit more, there's a touch of sweetness into it. And then, as Johnny was saying, in terms of structure, then you see a difference. That generally the Gris, I would say it's a little more in elegance. You know, things it's not as sharp, not so expressively sharp, but has sometimes even more structure, but a little bit more in balance.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I was noting about it, the difference I thought between, there's very, I would agree that there is those similarities between it and Sauvignon Blanc, but there's less of that, the wine geeky terms, that pyrazine side, that really sort of what's in your face herbal essence to it. This has got more roundness to it. It's fuller. And that's kind of what I'm liking about it. It's still got the freshness with it, but there's a real sense of ripe fruits that go with it as well, and makes it very enjoyable wine. It's got some nice weight to the mouth, I think.
Yeah.
Beautifully described, Kelvyn. So we've all been obviously having our ceviche and chips tonight.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit. Remind me of like grilled pineapple, something like that. Something that's just lightly grilled that you've had out on a barbecue, and you've got it's still fresh. You bite into the pineapple, it's all fresh, but there's a little bit of grill side to it, just a little bit of heat to it, and that's really nice. Just that mouthwater, and it's got the acidity that goes with it.
Beautifully put. Pure poetry, Kelvyn. Very, very good. And that's what this sort of wine does. It's because it's quite delicate. It's not like the Sauvignon Blanc, but yet it has this incredible. I think the acidity is really important in this wine. You don't notice it as being acidic wine, but it really gives this it prolongs the finish and gives this sort of big feeling in the mouth. And it's one of the most exciting wines I've tried. And I remember I tried all sorts of different food, but it's one of the big wines for us that is going to really help change people's ideas. And certainly when we get to, as you know, Kelvyn, we get to dealing with sommeliers and people who have fixed ideas about chili. This is the sort of wine which really changes it. And that's what's exciting. And it is just a pure expression of the fruit. I think in the winemaking in this wine, it is just made in stainless steel tanks. There is no influence of any oak in the either fermentation or maturation. So it's really just a very, very clean, pure expression of the fruit that you're getting out of the vineyards.
This is what Chile are doing at the moment, because there was that kind of almost stereotypical image of Chile makes these really nice, bright, easygoing wines, which there is, and many other countries do the same. But Chile has I think over the last 10 years or so, even more so, it's got really sort of down to detail, down to terroir, down to specific places, down to grape varieties, making things a lot fresher, making an identification for the wines with the terroir, rather than just making a wine to a textbook example. And I'm seeing more and more of that all the time from what's coming out of Chile, and still at really good prices. You know, you're not sort of looking at these massive prices. We're going, getting your nailer out to look what they're doing. Chile are making some really good, outstanding wines for still wines that you can afford, and you can nip out to your local shop or to myself and guess wines and go and get them. And they're making really beautiful examples of really sort of specific wines from specific areas with particular grape varieties. And I think it's fantastic to do. And this really is a good example of what Chile is doing at the moment. Making wines from a particular region, from a particular grape, in a particular way, and really showing it off, rather than just being a kind of, I don't know, like a stereotypical example of what that grape should taste like, which is maybe what is in people's heads with like Merlot or Cabernet that used to come out of Chile. I think over the last 10 years or so has really altered to become, no, we can make these really good wines, we can do this, we've got all these soils and climates, we can do it. And that's a really good example of it, this one. So it's fantastic to start it off with this thing. Wow, really good.
Yeah, we have an amazing playground here in Chile, and between all the altitude, the latitudes, the proximity to the sea or to the Andes, it started. I mean, you probably started to see them about 10 years ago, but it started a little bit before. But it's like an exponential movement. Now it's crazy. Like every year there's new tiny area, the guys that are doing specific stuff, and it's really fun. We have like Paredones. I mean, if you look behind Johnny, where there is like a hill in the image behind him, and the vineyards go all the way to that hill, and there's a valley just before that hill. The Sauvignon Gris in Paredones, in that place, in the Cool Coast Estate, is planted into that valley at the very back of the image. Because what is just behind Johnny actually is Sauvignon Blanc. So over there at the end, as it's a lot lower, actually we have, it's the area where we have some frost risk. In the Sauvignon Gris is the most susceptible to frost in Paredones actually, because it's in the lower part. And with Sauvignon Blanc also there around, but there's a lot more Sauvignon Blanc in the estate than Sauvignon Gris. Sauvignon Gris is just a small area. Just for the anecdote.
That's amazing. I think both Kelvyn and Arnaud just said. I mean, Kelvyn talked about the specific different plots and sites, and I think that within Casa Silva itself, the family never stop looking at sort of subplots within each estate, with each vineyard, and because it's all that. There is almost a map of little each part of each vineyard is grown and made separately. You can observe exactly what's going on year on year, and if something happens in a particular place, that it'll almost be kept separate. And it's that never ceasing to learn. And Kelvyn nailed it there. So the idea of just having this generic style of wine from a country and a grape variety is sort of on a micro scale at Casa Silva and other families. There are many doing great things, and it's that never stopping and trying to learn what's happening on the land, and you just have to watch it. And really, the only way to do it is to taste the wines and think, wow, what has happened? Why is the acidity? Why is the tannin, the sweetness, the style? What has changed? And that's that ability to. It's all about the detail in the vineyards and knowing what's coming out. And I get blown away when I ever go to Casa Silva. You in a big tasting room, Arnaud, when you got in the laboratory, all the little circles and vats, and every little plot is different, and all tasted sort of separately, made separately, and then they may finally be added and blended together. But it's that ability to keep it on a tiny scale and always question it every year. Say what is happening, what are these vines like, and it's really exciting. I love what Arnaud said about the frost. Like all of us, whenever we're close to failure, it always brings out the best in us. So it's almost taking that to the extreme parts of Chile where, yes, you might get a bit of frost, but by getting that close to that special part of that vineyard, you will get the greatest possible outcome. But where you taking those risks always comes the greatest success. And that's everything I've ever heard about. Well, Arnaud himself is like that, big risk taker, and the Casa Silva family. That's what really, it sounds like a cliche, but it is pushing those boundaries every time to try and find something a little bit better. And that's exciting with a family that's done so much already. Every year you find a little bit more, and a little bit new something comes out of the vineyard. So it never stops. Makes my job very easy, which is fantastic. Now Arnaud will tell us where the next wine has come from behind me, within the Paredones estate, which we'll have a look at the Pinot Noir next, wine number 2, which comes from the estate that I'm sitting in now, which Kelvyn is beautifully modelling, the Pinot Noir, which the sun shines too bright here, so it's reflecting off the label. But if we'd all like to get our second wine, and it's the Cool Coast Pinot Noir.
Yeah, it's behind you as well, but not as far as the Sauvignon Gris. A lot of it is on the actually we have a lot more Pinot Noir than Sauvignon Gris in the estate over there. So we have several orientations, several kind of slopes. Some are looking east, some west, some south, some north, because the estate in Paredones has a very varied and broken relief. So that's quite interesting, because we will find with a lot of different Pinot Noir within the estate actually, and that allows us to to fine tune and or wine the best we can. But as you say also, Johnny, we have only one shot every year, so sometimes we can try something in one sector and it doesn't work too well, but we have several Pinot Noir to look at. There are several Pinot Noir from Paredones, and at the end, this is basically a cuvée or a blend of our best, of what we think is the best. And so we select a few plots, and then we try to do our best in all of them, but sometimes we don't exactly achieve what we were looking for. So Pinot Noir also, I think at the very beginning was not reaching our expectation, but that's usual with Pinot Noir. You know, with the Sauvignon Blanc and Sauvignon Gris and other grapes, you get much faster to a very good result and good potential. While Pinot Noir, generally the vine needs to be a little bit older to start, you know, balance themselves better and give us better fruit. So I think it's really recently, probably the last 5 vintages, we've starting to show the real potential of the grape in the area. And well, the climate is ideal for the grape, the soils, I think also, but the vines need more time than what we saw at the beginning. And the fact that we have all these different slopes, generally in terms of soil, there are not so many differences because we're here on the coastal range. So in Chile, we have 2 ranges of mountain, the Andes, which is a very young range of mountain, and all the vineyard, like we would see in the last wine, but everything that's near the Andes will see a lot of variability in terms of soil. While on the coastal range, it's a very old range of mountain, not a young one. And so it has gone through a very long erosion process, and the soils are a lot more homogeneous than you would see near the Andes where it's younger soils. And so we don't have too much variability across the estate. It's generally a mix of red clay, like you see just behind Johnny, together with quartz. We call it mycio, the quartz gravel. You see it on the just behind Johnny's hair. If you move your head to the yes, on the side of the lake, you see it's a lot more yellow than where Johnny is. Actually, the top layer would be more that kind of red clay with different depth, but generally it's not very deep. And then you've got the, like you see over there, the more yellowish, which is basically a kind of granitic rock, which is in decomposition, very, very mineral. What you can see in the wines from the place actually. And we call it mycio. It comes from maize because of the yellow color. So from corn, maize. That's where the name comes from.
Nice simple comparison there. And I think one of the always an interesting fact is the idea that you need the type of soils you need for vines, and whereas all of us, any farmers in this country, we like nice fertile soils to get as much growth as we can. For vines, you actually want fairly infertile soils. You need to, like risking that frost. We're looking for really good drainage, no great water retention, and wines that aren't full of fertile organic components. You want the vines again to be under a bit of stress. You don't want big leaf canopies. You want the vines to really start trying to really focusing on the grapes, and not that you don't want masses of leaves, because that means there's not enough focus on the grapes. So it's that permanent balance between keeping the vines under stress, and that's what many of the reasons for growing vineyards in certain places are they're not the big fertile fields. It's the slightly harder, well-drained soils that you wouldn't maybe grow anything else. So it's just keeping these vines under a little bit of stress. I remember tasting this wine for the first time. Pinot Noir will be that wine for all of our lives. If any, like Arnaud, great, we have a surfing analogy here if anyone's seen the film The Big Wednesday, which is a philosophy for all of our lives probably, and it could be the wave, it could be whatever, but it's always looking for the next, the best thing that's on its way, whether it's the next wave, but very often for many people it's the next Pinot Noir, and it will always be that search, that eternal quest, and with Pinot we find many wines that are a bit disappointing, very often for the price. But it's something that it's hard to grow well, to keep the balance correct, and then certainly I think in Chile, as Arnaud will know and Kelvyn will know, for many years Pinot Noir was sort of quite often what I call overmade. The fear was that it was naturally a lighter wine. The berry itself is a bit bigger than things like Cabernet Sauvignon or Carmenere even, with a thinner skin, so you get a paler wine, a lighter colored wine. So the fear was, oh yes, we need to make this bigger and richer, and you can do all sorts of things in the winery to change what a wine looks like. Mash it up with the skins and leave it sitting there for an extra week. In terms of the winemaking, you can do different things to extract more color, but ultimately, the very first thing we said, it's always about the fruit that you pick, and that's where your flavors, where your body, where your acidity, where your tannin, where everything comes from, will actually define the quality of the wine. Not so much what you do in the winery is preserving what the great work you've done in the vineyard. And the thing that really hit home for me when I first tasted this wine out of oak barrels was the fact that it was this. When we tasted this wine, it was still very delicate, very perfumed, very much like Pinot Noir. And I said, how come this isn't all very heavily oaked when it's been in oak for 10, 11 months? And they said, well, these are all old barrels. They've all been used once or twice before. And that is a really, really important thing. When you hear the word new oak, old oak, what does it mean? It's basically a brand new barrel that's just been toasted on the inside. Your winery buys it from the cooper, the barrel maker, and it's all very burnt and toasty on the inside. You put your wine in, your juice in there, your wine in there, and it will become very heavily influenced on a new barrel. If it's been used once before or twice before, the influence is a little bit more delicate. And that's part of one of the many, many decisions you have to make as a winemaker. Where does the oak come from? France, America, which forest, which cooper? Is it high toast? There are millions and millions of things, and it's just getting that balance right to express the great fruit that's come from Paradones. But let's have a quick look at it, shall we? First, too much talk for me, I'm sorry, and not enough drinking and tasting and smelling. So we'll get back to the important stuff now. But we look at the wine. Red wines, you can begin to get a little bit more analysis just by looking at it. The general color of it, is it a purpley pink color? Has it developed a sort of a browny color or even an orangey color? We'll tell you how much a wine has started to develop. That doesn't mean how old it is always. You can get a wine that is a very sort of purpley pink color, it could be 20 years old, that it hasn't started to develop, or you can get a wine that's very young, which has started to develop into sort of a browny orange color, which has happened very quickly. And so there's a difference between a youthful and aged wine and actually how old it is. This wine itself is still quite, I think, purpley pink. I liken it to sort of red currant jelly, would be my description of this wine, if anyone knows what I'm talking about there. But it's a nice sort of garnet red, quite a pale color, very elegant, very pretty, beautiful and clear, very, very bright. So let's give it a good swirl around. You may see some legs sticking to the side of the glass as it sort of slowly goes down the side of the glass. I know Arnaud's got to go quite soon because the tide doesn't wait for everybody. Arnaud, I know that, don't worry. And Mrs. Frennet also is waiting.
I've got about 10, 15 more minutes.
Okay. But we get to smell the wine. And the first thing you get is just a beautiful aroma of those sort of light red fruits. That's the first thing which hits you. If you get anything else like cream or spices, there are other things there, but I think that beautiful primary aromas are there's lots of nice ripe pale red fruits in there, so that's coming out on the nose. There are other things in the background. You're thinking, what else is in there? And quite often when you go to taste the wine, you might get those secondary flavors, but that's what we're always looking for in Pinot Noir. But let's give it a taste. Oh, I think I'm just going to smile for a bit. I just quite like that. Again, the first thing we technically taste, is it dry or sweet? There's very little sugar in this wine. So again, like the Sauvignon Gris, 1.5, 2 grams tops. So it's a dry wine. The other thing we might taste on red wine or feel on red wines are tannins. The tannins are very, very delicate. Tannins will make the front of your teeth dry out a little bit. If anyone's eaten a sloe berry whilst picking them on your way to making sloe gin or sloe vodka, you will know the definition of tannin. It will suck every bit of water out of your mouth. So if ever you're out picking sloes, just say, I wonder what it tastes like. And there is your purest definition of tannin. I've never tasted anything like it, but that is tannin. So this is very delicate, I think, on the tannins. Just a little bit of grip there on the teeth and the tongue, but not too much. And then it's that lovely combination of, again, being very delicate, but yet having this concentration. So it goes all the way throughout the palate, the roof, the tongue, and the finish there. And you're getting those flavors on the back of your palate as you were getting for the nose. They're sort of red fruits, but then I'm getting something else. It doesn't matter what it is. And this is where I throw this out to the floor. I want everybody to say exactly what it could be a wet dog. It could be a leather sofa. It could be chili prawns. It could be whatever you're eating and drinking, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. But we always look about it's about the balance of this wine.
Stroking my face. This wine is one of those wines that stroke my face. It's very smooth. It's silky. There's these nice, just freshly crushed strawberries going in there, and there's that oaky spice, but it's kind of caressed by it. It's kind of held by these really fresh strawberries. It's just nice. Yeah, exactly. Just stroke. It's got that kind of feeling to it. It's got a nice silkiness to it. It's fantastic. Lovely.
Taking a whole new angle here, Kelvyn. But I think that's beautifully put. And yes, we get that style. It's that beautiful, delicate, lighter style of wine, but no compromise on the flavor and the concentration of flavor that's still there. And that's what's really exciting with Pinot Noir. Quick aside, I always have to mention this with every tasting because it's a very important word in winemaking. We talked about the fermentation. And so basically we talk about sugar being fermented into alcohol. That's how wine was discovered, fruit being stored over winter, somewhere in Georgia, I think 5,000 years ago. That's fine, we know all about that. But in red wine, in all red wines, it goes through a second fermentation process where the acidity in the grapes, the malic acid is turned into lactic acid. So obviously this word is malolactic fermentation, which is a really important word for life. So you can all gallop out tomorrow to whoever you meet and obviously tell everybody about this. It's a big one. But basically every red wine will go through the second fermentation process. And why is it, it's only relevant because it's a slight, the lactic acid is slightly less acid than the malic acid, and sometimes because it's the sort of thing you will find in dairy products, it may give you that essence of that sort of creamier, that different style of texture and flavor to the wine. It does happen in white wines also, but we like to control it a bit more there because it does lessen the acidity a little bit. But it's very important that process and how you ferment the wines and what culture you use, or is it a natural culture which happens. And then we talk about the aging in oak, and this wine, I think about 11 months, I know, in barrels, but all second and third fill, aren't they?
Yes. No new barrels here.
So it's really
want
important.
Barrels, just to be already very polished and give just a slight touch. But we use less and less new barrels actually.
Yeah.
We need very, very concentrated grape and to have new barrels. We want the oak to just be part of the wine, uplift a little bit the fruit, but very, very discreet.
Well, I think that certainly comes to the wine. You can see that it's the work that goes into the fruit, into the vineyards that you just cannot recreate that in the winery. You can add oak, you can add color and texture to it, but to get that magical little bit of that beautiful Pinot Noir flavor is really exciting. And we'll taste 20 Pinot Noirs in the next, 6 months. 18 of them probably won't taste or smell of Pinot Noir. They'll taste of the winemaking, the oak or whatever, or nothing at all. So to have this is why I smile when I smell this wine. You're actually smelling what I think is a lovely example of Pinot Noir and on the flavors. So it's a rare treat. And as many white times as I've tasted it, I can't help but smile. So it's good. How's everyone finding this?
How old are the vines? You said it takes several years for them before they turn into a good Pinot like that. How old are the vines?
Today they are 17 years old. The Pinot Noir, for most of the Pinot Noir we have there, actually, some are a little bit younger, some are like 12 years old. I'm not sure which vintage you are tasting. I'm tasting the 2018.
This is 17.
I got the 17.
2007
vintage before. So the vines there were 14 years old. Yes.
So really sort of getting towards that sort of 16 to 25 is that real peak of when they're still quite strong vines, and as you get to 28 to 30 years, they begin to the quality of the fruit is fantastic, but the productivity begins to fall a little bit. So we're right in that perfect stage for a wine producer, Arnaud, where you get beautiful quality, but you also get a decent production as well, which is good.
Yeah.
But for me, it's a very, very beautiful Pinot Noir, and it's very, very exciting. It's all about that delicacy of how it's made in the winery, and that's I know you know better than I do, but I think the whole drive of Casa Silva is to be in that it's almost as little winemaking, or exactly what the grape needs to really present what comes out of the vineyard, rather than saying here's a wine from a winery. These are wines from vineyards from a grape growing family, and that's the essence of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and also respect the terroir, because you've got there's a lot of things about it always makes me laugh when sometimes a wine journalist will ask, or a sommelier, let's say, will ask, so what's your yield per hectare? And the yield per hectare, they would consider the lowest yield the best quality, but it's not always the case. A certain place has a certain potential yield or balance yield, and that's what we try to respect. We try to respect every place is for, not talking about the whole estate, no, not even the whole block. Within the block, there are places that could stand more grape or less grape. So we don't try to overstress an area thinking we're going to get a better quality. That area is not made for such a small yield, which technically in theory would mean better quality for some. No, it's probably made for, you know, a more balanced. We try to have a balanced yield, and it's probably made for in between quality. So the selection within the vineyard is very important for that. And we try to respect the potential of every area, and then we will direct those grapes to the different level of quality. But we will not come and say, okay, in this place I'm going to produce a Grand Reserva wine because we want it. The place will tell us, here you're going to produce this kind of wine. Yeah. And we try to do our best with what the area potential is.
Yeah, I think that encapsulates everything that Casa Silva is about. It's that you see what the land produces, and then it's what the family and Arnaud and the whole team, when they taste it, they then decide what do they think it's their opinion. And then when we talk about the terroir, it's how they feel, they respect the yield, the quality, the style, the aromas. It's their opinion of it. And that's when we talk about terroir, it's the human influence. And what do we do with that? How in our mind, how good is that? So as Arnaud said, you don't say, we will make that wine from that area and it will get this much yield. That's it. You look at the vineyards, you taste the vines, you taste the wines, and then you decide. And that is, I think I've seen many, worked with a few wineries in my time. I think that's unique to Casa Silva, that every year that respect to what comes out of the vineyard is astonishing. And as you say, you don't.
Johnny, what Mario Gay says always is like, we can only make it worse.
Yeah, exactly.
With the less possible.
Exactly. That's because he does less. This is the director of winemaking, so he likes to do as little work as possible. But that's not because he's lazy. It's because he just respects what's coming out of the vineyard. Yes, I've learned a lot from Mario Gacy in my time. But before Arnaud goes, we'll just quickly move on to, before we have a few questions at the end as well. Move on to a very, very important wine. It's the last wine of tonight, but it's really, really important. A sort of significant moment for all of us now. It's the Carmenere grape variety. I don't know if everybody's tasted Carmenere before. It's still a little bit unknown in this country, but I'm not going to beat around the bush here, Arnaud. I think Casa Silva are probably the number one Carmenere producer in Chile. Full stop. And that's not because that's what people agree with, but it's not just that. How many awards and gold medals and many points from Tim Atkin and every competition. It's how the family respect this grape. It has a lovely history, a lovely story for the marketing people. The lost grape of Bordeaux. The essence of the background of most of the vines in Chile are from Bordeaux. In fact, from Casa Silva was from Saint-Emilion, I believe. Is that right? From at the end of the 19th century.
I mean, that's where the family originally comes from. And you're right. I mean, for Carmenere, one thing is all the recognition we have had for the variety, but I mean, they didn't come just by chance. I mean, if we've made a name for the varieties because we've invested a lot on the variety since it was rediscovered. We've done a lot of research. We are doing a lot of research still in terms of finding the right place, the kind of terroirs that works best. And actually now also we're doing, we're in third step of a study, which is called the Genoma Project. It's basically to try to identify the different clones of Carmenere. We already have 2.5 of them well identified, and which something that had never been done with Carmenere, but has been done with most of the most famous grapes, the most international grape, Cabernet Sauvignon, Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, Pinot, Syrah. They all have different clone selection, and which clone would be better in which climate or what style of wine it would give you. So it's very there's a lot of knowledge on that, but not with Carmenere. I mean, Carmenere is being invented or reinvented in Chile since it was rediscovered in the 90s. So, and unlike all the other varieties where Chile has been able to feed itself from the knowledge from abroad, with Carmenere, we have had to do all the investigation and find it out by ourselves. So the investigation at the winery level has been very, very important. And the good thing that it has borne fruit as well, because we have been able to progress and I mean, it may not sound very modest, but most wineries have copied the way we are, approaching Carmenere in Chile. Not all, but most of them do copy, and this is a benchmark for most people in Chile. Now there's like super premium Carmenere that would cost 3-4 times the price. We're also in there, we also have a micro terroir. We have another wine that we just launched recently, S7, which is also more expensive. But for many, many years, that was the benchmark. And now there are many, many more. So it's a good thing actually that many other wineries are doing very good Carmeneres, but remain definitely a reference for our work on the variety. And it's a variety that's very hard to produce in a cheap way because it's tricky to work. It's very demanding on the terroir, on the winemaking, on the viticulture, and so at the end, it's very difficult to make a good, inexpensive Carmenere. I mean, this is not very expensive, but I mean a good entry-level Carmenere, that's really tricky. And I think there Chile has done some mistake maybe in the past in trying, to promote Carmenere as the flagship variety, because you will never make such a good entry Carmenere like you make a good entry cheap Cabernet Sauvignon, for example, from Chile. But in these ranges, in these levels, I mean, it makes amazing wines in terms of complexity, and it's
Arnaud, would you say almost a little bit like Pinot Noir, but almost more than any other grape variety I've ever seen in my life, it is affected about in tiny differences in each part of the vineyard. It seems to have a dramatic effect on Carmenere, whether it's almost on the edge rows of the vines, on a tiny different soil, a slight dip in the vineyard has a profound effect. So with a single site of, say, I don't know, 7-8 hectares, I think as you proved back in the mid 2000s, you can get 15-20 different types of wine from the same vineyard of the same grape grown in the same way, because it reacts to different, as Anna said, to different terroirs. It's astonishing. And this is, I think, what Anna says, the detail that by which you have to grow it to achieve the best out of it means that you can never just do it in a massive industrial way. It will always.
No, it's like a surgeon. It's like a surgeon in your vineyard. You have to go to that. Yeah, right there, it's okay, but a little bit. So you have to wait. If you harvest your whole block of Cabernet together, you never make a great wine. So you really must work your block as a surgeon to get the right ripeness of every vine almost, or every area, because the soil is not homogeneous everywhere, so they react differently.
And it's amazing that I think that the statistics go that a lot of places in Chile have found it too hard to grow, and I think the number went from about 6.87% of the planted area in Chile was Carmenere, has fallen to about 6.5%. But at Casa Silva, because they're not shy of putting in a bit of hard work, it's gone up to nearly 25%, Arnaud, is that right? Mm-hmm. Because they love that challenge. And the rewards, when you do it well, I think are astonishing, are amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's our most important variety in terms of at the winery. And that's also unique, because generally, Cabernet Sauvignon is a lot bigger, and it's only the fifth or sixth grape in importance in Chile. So, and for us, it's the most important.
So, shall we've all probably smelt it and tasted it, but shall we do it? We almost could give ourselves to Kelvyn here for the aromas, how it looks, and everything else. But it's
I mean, it's got a real sort of black currant going in there. There's a little bit of dark chocolate. It's some coffee, undertones. Lovely freshness though. I'm just thinking it's so fresh, it's so nice, but it's this ripe fruit, almost like little bits of icky in my mouth, but then the acidity just cleans it out. And I think this is, and the tannins are there, but they're so soft. They give it some structure, they give it a little bit of weight, but they're not drying my mouth out totally because the acidity just keeps it nice and fresh. So I can keep going and have another glass, another glass. It's fantastic. It's lovely.
Can I just say, you know, Johnny said you just flag up, say what you see, you know.
Yeah.
There's
Come
a
on.
bit of nettle
Yeah.
in there. I've got nettles going on, believe it or not.
I think that is perfect. One of the first things when you go to Carmenere, you can almost get that. You can almost quite get that leafy element to it, definitely. And I think that as Kelvyn hit on it, you get the coffee, you get the fruit, but there's so many other things there. It's amazing. You go to a tasting with these wines, Ian, and you'll get smoke, licorice, pepper, chocolate, coffee, earth. Dead leaves, and it has that amazing. I've never known quite such a complex wine with so many different aromas to it, and it makes it. It is unique. It really is unlike anything else.
It's like a bit of menthol or something going to it as well. So
yeah,
minty freshness.
So many things. But again, Kelvyn, I think you said what we all like to say about Carmenere. That the perfect description of the tannins that we get on the tip of the teeth there, which are important. But when Carmenere is grown in the right place, you get this lovely soft, ripe element to the tannins. Because as Ian said, you get that nettly, that slight green leafiness to the wine, which is sort of part of what Carmenere is. And if you have that, you don't want to lose that element because that's part of the definition of the grape. But if you add it onto that, if you grow it in the wrong place, and you get hard, astringent, hard, very drying tannins, that really clashes with that greenness, and that's why it is so difficult to grow. You've got to get it right to balance that greenness. What do we call it, Arnaud? We like good green. You have to have green in Carmenere, otherwise it's not Carmenere. But if you then have hard, astringent, drying tannins, it really clashes with it. So it's that amazing balance of textures, flavors, everything. You could say anything about this wine.
It works well. It's doing the right thing for me. I don't know if it's doing for everybody else. I just think this is a really good, fuller-bodied red wine. It's doing the job. It's nice. It's something you can drink by yourself. You can have food with it as well. But I think it's nice to have a red wine that you can drink by yourself, but you can have the food to go with it. It's that a bit of an all-rounder, but it's so well crafted. It's so nice. There's lots going on in there, and I'm thinking, well,
you stole my words. You stole my words. I was going to say this is. I love this wine by itself. It's a great food wine, but it's so nice to have a wine that you can just enjoy, a red wine that you can enjoy just like this, in the evening. The complexity, the good Parisian, as Johnny said, the good green side gives that complexity. That's actually really, every time you go back to the glass, you find something different. Yeah. That's amazing. Sometimes the food can distract you too much, to enjoy the wine fully.
Exactly. That's why I find sometimes you just need the wine. Food comes later. And this is really,
it's a good Friday night wine.
Definitely. And weirdly, on a health front, I think a wine which has this many flavors and this much complexity, you actually end up drinking it very slowly. Because there is so much going on there. You get this long finish afterwards. It sounds a ridiculous thing to say when something tastes so delicious that you just think, all right, I'll just down it quickly. But because there's so much going on and the aftertaste is so long, you just take that little bit longer to drink it. But don't worry, Carmenere can be a Marmite grape variety. Because it has that, yes, it has that fruity element, but it has those other non-fruity, as Ian said, there's greener elements to it. So it isn't for everybody. And the amazing about Carmenere, and I think in Casa Silva, Arnaud will correct me, I think we have probably 7 or 8 completely different wines made from Carmenere, from different parts of the vineyard, and therefore made differently to respect what the fruit that's come out of it. But I've never known a grape like it, which you can pick it from the same vineyard, make it in the same way, and have so many different styles of wine. But the right style for Carmenere is always that soft tannin, that real fruitiness and that non-fruity element to it. And then weirdly, you don't notice it so much, but there is really lovely fresh acidity in this wine as well. You don't notice it so much in a red wine, but it's there when you begin to look at it. And that not only gives it that freshness and makes it easy, just keeps the palate fresh when you're drinking it, but it also gives it a great opportunity to age. acidity is probably the single, everyone thinks the bigger body, the tannin is the vital part of a wine aging, but without acidity, a wine just won't age at all. It will just fall to pieces. And I kicked off my winemaking career in Western Australia. We had the biggest wines in the world. And about 2 years after we'd made them, there was nothing left because there was we'd sort of overcooked the grapes. Massive sugar, high alcohol, high flavor, high color. But the wines really disintegrated after that because it didn't have that freshness of acidity. So there is a real great ability for this wine to age. I know people like to know how long will this last. I mean, bloody hell, it's gorgeous now. It's magnificent if you like coming here. But certainly 2, 3, 4, I could see this wine in 5 years' time. Different, but would still have that freshness from the acidity. So it will evolve. The color will change. The aromas will change. More of those second flip, those sort of earthy, smoky, licoricey, green elements will come to the fore a little bit, but it will still have that lovely fresh backbone of acidity there, which will keep the wine in very good condition. But I know, Arnaud, you've got to dash off now, so we can all I'll let you run off, but we can probably still carry on talking and tasting the wines. But Arnaud, I know Kelvyn will, but I just like to thank you very much, and you make my job much easier because you fill in all the gaps in my knowledge.
No problem. I mean, a great pleasure for me to be and virtually meet all the guys. I'm taking the bottle of Carmenère for tonight. Actually, I'm driving and I'm going to open it again as soon as I get home. But yeah, I have to go. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit late already, but that's okay.
And I would just like to say thank you, Arnaud, just for coming on here. It's been a pleasure to meet you. Your wines are fantastic. They're absolutely brilliant. And thank you for your time. And I hope you have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your wines. I'm sure we will. Thank you.
Cheers, Arnaud.
Thank you, Arnaud. Great to see you.
Cheers, guys.
I hope the wind is good.
It will be. I hope to see you guys someday in Chile, okay? When everything comes back to normal.
Fantastic. Thank you, Arnaud. Nice to see you.
Bye. Have fun.
Ta-da.
Fantastic. So who's not jealous at all of Arnaud?
Sounds fantastic. I'd love to be out there in Chile. It's a country I've got to still explore, but another time. But the wines give me a taste and the flavour of what's out there. So and hopefully, as for everybody else who's tasted the wines this evening, how's everything been for everybody else? Are you all good?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just say that Pinot Noir? It's, for all we were saying how light it is, it's 14%. You would never have believed it was 14%, would you?
No.
That explains a few things, I think.
But that is a brilliant point, because a lot of people will pick up a bottle and look at it and it says, they go, oh, it's got 40%, it's high in alcohol. Well, that you can really forget that. Wine is it's all about the balance of the wine. And as you said, none of us picked that out as an alcoholic wine in any way. And this is still a delicate wine, but it doesn't burn you, and it's all beautiful balance. So it's just reflecting the fruit that's come in because it's been made well. There's all that lovely flavour there. Yes, we may start singing a bit earlier if we've had a couple of glasses, but the wine it's all about getting that balance right. And it's never look at a wine and just say that's alcoholic. If it says 14%, I think the Carmenère, if I look at it now, we'll say 14.5, and that's probably been modest. But again, it doesn't dominate the wine. There's so much flavor, so many other things going on there that it's all about getting that balance. That's the one thing that the Silva family have done, and the rest of Chile is doing as well. It's getting the idea of we want the wines more in balance. We want that lovely flavor. We want that what they have is this incredible sunshine, but without that great heat. So we get these wonderfully ripe grapes, but beautifully balanced wines. And goodness me, I learn every year, and as does the Silva family. All we really want to do is for you to say, wow, bit of a strange bloke from Rutland in front of a vineyard from Chile, but I hope it's just sort of piqued out your interest in what is possible when you think this is just one single family, and there are 4 separate estates within the one valley, and there are 13, 14 valleys going north to south, different longitude, different longitude. But it's amazing with this range of wines we've had tonight, from the Sauvignon Gris out on the coast, that real super fresh, delicate light, but quite a powerful finish as well. Over to these lovely, rich, ripe flavors. I haven't really talked about Los Lingues, actually. Sorry about that, but on our map, The estate that the Carmenere comes from is the Los Linges estate. So we're right up into the foothills of the Andes here. And these vines were planted in about 93, 94. Again, the Silvas luckily were the first people to plant anything there. It was this sort of fairly rough looking land in the foothills, not pretty, not agricultural at all. But you know, you don't know what's going to happen when you plant vines, but the Silvas, having this great experience and many generations of growing grapes, just thought that something could happen here. And what's interesting, it wasn't just all of the foothills of the Andes were going to be right for this. They picked out, they identified these key parts where you had these lovely gullies coming through from the Andes, where you had these quite strong winds coming through, which did two things. They stopped the temperature getting too high. So we're looking at about 31, 32, 30, even 33 degrees here in Los Linges. Without the wind, it can get even higher than that. It also puts the vines under a little bit of stress. The more wind you get, the more evaporation you get. So the less water you get in the vines, they're just under that little bit of pressure. And again, you get that real emphasis on ripening those grapes. And so it was just, you see all these gullies, that's where the Casa Silva vineyards are. And if you look at Los Linges, it's just little bumpy mountains. Actually, if you look on the website, the Casa Silva website, it'll give you a little tour of the vineyards. And you see these little gullies, ravines. And what is amazing, and we touched on this subject with Arnaud looking at the Carmenere, that in between 2005 and 2008, they divided this whole estate up, and the other one in Lolo, which is towards the estate, towards the ocean, these little tiny plots, grew them identically, made them identically, and just said, right, what's happened? And that's what we talk about, tasting the wines, and then you make your decision. But as long as you know where they've come from, you can see this amazing patchwork, myriad of hundreds of different plots within the same vineyard, which have profound effects on the grape varieties. It was done with all varieties, well, Mainmont, Chardonnay, Cabernet, Syrah, and Viognier. But it was with Carmenere that the most dramatic effects came out. And the great thing about this, they will never, ever stop. They'll never sit back and go, we've done it. We're the best. Every year, driven by the family, they just get out there and they'll take you into the vineyards if you go out there. And that's what you should always go and ask to see. Then you get the feeling of what they're doing. And it is astonishing. I'm a visitor of many vineyards, but I just cannot get over the detail that goes into that. And ultimately it comes out in the wines. And that's all. That's the best reflection of it. But if you do get a chance, do get out there. It's great for us because it's climate-wise. It's warm during the day, but it gets lovely and cool at night, so we don't get sort of blown away and can't sleep, which is many of our complaints about these hot climates. But it'll drop to 10, 11 degrees overnight, so we feel it's quite comfortable in the morning. Get that lovely early morning. And that just it's good for the vines. It gives them a chance to relax, if you like, rather than say where I was in Australia, where it's sort of 30 degrees all the time and everything just cooks and burns and keeps on ripening all the time, and the vines never get a chance to switch off. But yeah, we'll come back in another year, and there'll be more. We've learnt more from Casa Silva. The family will have learnt more what to do with Carmenere, Pinot Noir. But I hope you've seen a real range of wines here from the coast up to the Andes.
I've seen the extremes, like we've got the, going back to the map here, we've got several different estates that we use, but we've gone from the extremes of the coastal region right in then to the Andes, and both have influences from cold. The cold comes from from the Andes, where we've got from the Carmenere where we're now, and then the other wines we've had from the ocean coming up here, the breeze. Because you go to South America, you ever go there along the coast. The sea is pretty nippy. It's not warm. It's not like going to the Med.
It's not going to sea houses, is it?
Yeah, chilly. And in itself, as named after the country, that's probably maybe where they named the country after. Like they dipped in the sea, but this is pretty cool. I'm going to name the country. And so you see these two extremes. There's two extremes part of the climates, but the climates here also enable the wines to be so fresh. So I think in the Andes side, you get these really full of bodied wines we get from the Carmenere, and then you get right towards the ocean, and you get these really light floral wines, and what we've just said with the Sauvignon Gris and the Pinot Noir, and they're fantastic. And it's just a wonderful range, and I just think they're really nice, because before tonight I tasted Los Lingueras. I thought it was really nice Carmenere. It's really good. Shows what Carmenere can do, because say in Bordeaux it's part of just a blend. I think in Chile they've shown the great variety for itself. It stands alone. It does very well. But Sauvignon Gris, it's kind of one of those great varieties that get the Sauvignon Blanc stands in front of it and starts shouting, makes lots of shouty noises. This grape variety behind it is much prettier, it's much nicer.
I agree with that.
It's much more attractive. And then the Pinot Noir. I thought, I like Pinot Noir. This got got a bit of more oak in there, but I think the oak is well done, and it was lovely. It was fresh, like strawberry fruit. And again, you can taste the coast. You can taste the coastal side, and I think Casa Silva as a winery in Chile are doing some really nice wines of a range that for everybody to enjoy, whichever you like. You like your bigger styles, you like your lighter styles. They've got something there for everybody, but they're doing them so well, and they stopped doing them just to, like I was saying earlier with Chile. I just thought they were trying to make wines to an ingredients, a way, a formula. But no longer. That's no longer what's happening here. These are really good wines. So the top marks.
I've always liked New Zealand Pinot Noirs.
Yeah.
But I think this one is on a par with some of the nicest New Zealand Pinot Noirs that I've had.
Definitely.
That's a good point. At a fraction of the price. I mean, you go to Otago and they're, goodness me, they're beautiful, but they come at a cost. But I think that's a very good analogy.
Actually. We've had like Mount Difficulty Pinot Noir, and it's a lot more expensive than the Chilean ones. And I mean, we've always been fans of Common Air.
Oh, good.
Great. So, but this is particularly nice. Yes.
I think Common Air gets a bit of a bad name for itself.
It's never had a bad name in our house.
What a good house.
Actually, people who drink it and enjoy it, I think it's just wine critics sometimes. It's that sort of snobbery side. And I love it. I think it's really nice because it's there, it's full, it's ripe, it's in your face. But at the same time, it's kind of got some, it's not like it's turned up to like 11. Like sometimes you get some wines that are just a bit too full on. It's got everything there. It's got all you need. It's got your lovely black currant fruits. It's got those nice herbal side. It's got a little bit of spice there, but it's got some freshness that runs through it. But the tannins are really soft. So you can have a big glass of this in front of the telly without worrying that your mouth's just going to, and your face is going to cave in with so much dryness. And that's where some red wines are, that they really need food. And a lot of times you don't always want to be eating stuff. You want to be watching, I don't know, your box set or... and you want a nice wine, and you want it there, and it's juicy, it's fruity, and that's kind of, this is what this does, because the tannins are there, but they're so soft.
Ian's having a good time.
Kelvyn, do you sell all of these wines?
Yes, these are all our wines that we sell, so do check our website. So on www.guestwines.com, go to our shop. They're all on there. You can get them. And tonight, what we're going to do for all you lovely people who've been on tonight, come on, we're going to email you out a discount coupon. So on your next order with Guest Wines, I hope, please do. We will give you this discount from being on tonight. We'll give you a special discount for it as well.
That's a shame you just brought me some yesterday.
I delivered. I'm the van driver. No, I don't do finances. That's Ruth's part. I've never seen money since we got married. I'm not allowed to. It's not my. It's the finance department. She does all that sort of side. But yeah, anything that's on our website, we've got a few more items to still add. But all these wines tonight are on there. If you want to buy them, you want to buy more, please do. But we'll send you out, before you do though, we'll send you out a discount code so you can get a special discount on your wines, just to say thank you for coming on tonight and buying the wines and being with us tonight. Because, you know, it's kind of, I suppose, sometimes it's a bit hard when you're in the present day circumstances with the COVID and pandemics and all that sort of stuff, to get out there and reach your customers and be able to taste your wines and talk about them. And it's nice to be able to, I suppose, now I see everybody's front rooms, I see people's spare rooms. You know,
cats.
Be able to talk about wines as well. So, you know, I just thank you guys for coming on board with us. But you know, if you don't know much more about me, myself and Ruth, check us out, see what we're all about. And you know, I thank you for coming on. And I think Johnny as well, he's brilliant. I mean, his knowledge is phenomenal. And Arnaud, that was a really special touch, getting somebody in from the actual winery to come and talk about the wines.
It was great.
Because it helps me as well. You know, I'm here to sell the wines, but I'm a bit of a wine geek. I need to know more. I need to know what's happening. So hearing about the guys who make the wine helps me understand it as well better, so I can appreciate it. And I just think these wines that I've had this evening, I love them. I think they're really, really cool. There's the real freshness by the coast. I can taste that. And then this you know, this wine here, it's further inland. It's got that more bigger body about it, but it's still lovely and fresh and easygoing. And it's so right, that lovely environment that's created that. You can sit there and enjoy that. And I think that's, you know, what particularly I think people of the United Kingdom they like food, you know, they like wine that goes with food, but equally I think we also just like wine that goes with wine, and we can just drink wine, and that's fine. We don't need to sit down and order food.
Definitely fine.
A winey wine.
Actually, wine like this does the job, doesn't it? We don't need the food to go with it. We don't need something to get
We
in
don't need the extra calories.
a glass of wine. Yeah, it's fantastic. And this wine does that. It's big, it's wholesome, but it's not got those tannins that make my face go, you know, it's good. So fantastic. So thank you all for coming along, and thank you, Johnny, for.
Can I just ask one more question to Johnny? Can I just ask you mentioned about, I think it was you, about Chardonnay out there as well. Do they do a Chardonnay? Do you do a Chardonnay?
Weirdly, we've just launched a Chardonnay from Paradones, from the same vineyard that the Sauvignon Gris comes from, because it's been every couple of years I get very excited. I sort of need to do something, and this last couple of years was to try and create a Chardonnay from someone like Paradones, where it was going to be a bit not so big and heavy and ripe. Get this real lovely citrusy honeyed style Chardonnay. It's the sort of Chardonnay that's left Burgundy that you need to pay 25-30 quid now from Burgundy to find. And I wanted to get it out at about sort of £15 with a tiny bit of oak in it, but have this amazing fruit, that sort of citrusy honey edge to it. And just in the last few months, we've been delayed a little bit because of everything that's happened. But it's just coming to the UK now. But it's a new project to get that lovely style of Chardonnay that we used to love from Burgundy, but we can't afford anymore. So we don't not big, heavy and oaky, but super ripe fruit, lovely and fresh. Have a little bit of oak in the background. So it's very good question, and something that's very close to my heart. And I've been working very closely on that for the last 6-7 months. So it's a big project for me, Chardonnay. So yeah, definitely yes.
Might be on our shelves, so just watch out. So another way to keep in touch with Guest Wines is to sign up to our newsletter. Sign up to that, you'll get to know everything before everybody else. So things like this from Johnny, if he gets his Chardonnay out there, we'll put it out on our shelves. If it's, you know, I think it'd be something worthwhile having. Where's it gone? You fallen over, Johnny?
It's
I was looking for the Chardonnay. I've got a sample bottle of the Chardonnay here. I was trying to find it, but I can't.
Of course you have.
We'll have some of that. You send some over. If it, you know, I'm sure it's absolutely fantastic. We'll get it on our shelves, and then you kind of folk can, if you want to buy it, please do, and I'll come out and deliver it to you. That's my other job now, delivery man. I like it. I love it going on there. It's great because when you have an online shop, you can feel that you're a bit of a distance from everybody else. So when you get out in the van, you can meet people and have a chat. You kind of same as when people come into your
I was about to say we're quite I don't know about the rest of the guys, but I know certainly myself and also perhaps Anna, we're quite a fan of the Sauvignon Blanc, and the Sauvignon Gris was quite an interesting twist on that. I don't know what you've got as maybe a halfway house, or you know how you guys feel about that Sauvignon Blanc Sauvignon Gris mixture, but it's quite an interesting differential from our usual.
Yeah, good question. That could be our next tasting, Kelvyn. We have quite a lively. We do produce Sauvignon Blanc, obviously, but it's not like Sauvignon Blanc you've tried before from Paradones. It's lively. So it's quite There we go. There is
be snobs with this, but and rightly or wrongly, we normally pick the Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, the New Zealand, and to try Chilean twist on it. That was quite a good new experience. But
Good.
I think again, whether you go Chilean, I don't know. I've had different experiences, but I'd be open to new ones.
Excellent.
We could do this. We could open experience of what different Sauvignon Blancs from around the world. Things that are similar to Sauvignon Blanc, like the Sauvignon Gris, and then we've got things like Bacchus. There is a great variety called Semillon that sometimes can have that kind of grassiness. Sometimes even Chenin Blanc can have that kind of grassy side to it. And there's other great varieties. So maybe we could even do a tasting.
Yeah.
Great varieties that have these sort of similarities, and
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can do that.
Bella's up for that.
And we've got the wines to do it, so that's cool. And if it involves having Johnny in there, we can get them over, do some more, and we can have another chat about it. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, it's
Johnny,
from my side, a big thank you to everybody, because it's as you can tell, I quite like to talk. Well, I quite like to get the message about Chile out a little bit. It's very, very important to me and dear to my heart to try and show what's really going on in Chile, apart from the massive. I mean, there's so much in the supermarkets that we see. Chili's everywhere, but we don't really get to see the sort of things we've seen tonight. Yeah. Thanks to Kelvyn, though. Without you, these wines wouldn't get out there. So thank you very much indeed. So it's just to have fun. Oh, and by the way, on the wines, if you want to keep them, I know having full bottles is something a bit funny at a tasting. I know we might have finished them all already. I'm not sure, but they'll keep for a day or two. If you want to keep them for longer, you can just get I'm sure Kelvyn will tell you what's called just a vacuum van. Just pumps out the air from the bottle, so you can keep them for 2, 3, 4 days. Certainly the red wines.
Never lasts that long.
Well, exactly. That's not really a problem, but just in case, just in case. I'm doing the healthy mention. But no, it's
Johnny, we're in the northeast. Come on.
Don't worry. My godfather was from Norham, so I spent a lot of time up there. And that's the northeast.
Yeah.
So I've been raised in the delights of Northumberland. I love it very much.
Thank you very much, Johnny, for coming on and doing this tonight. I really appreciate it. And anybody questions that you want to ask afterwards, or just get in touch with me, please look at our online, look at our shop. Any wines there you think are really cool, please look. Any questions, back. And I just look forward to any more tasting we can do in the future. That'd be fantastic. And Johnny, if we can get you involved, that would be really, really cool as well. And it's just really nice to have customers, see my customers in front of me, rather than just being these sort of people I see on the emails and phone calls. It's lovely to see you here. Thank you for coming along. Thank you for trying the wines. I've really enjoyed them, as you can see. And I'm so relieved as well that I've not had a naked 5-year-old. I think Ruth wrestled him down as we've gone through the evening to make sure they didn't come running in. It's like, don't let him in.
Aubrey, come on. Hello, Aubrey.
It's been fantastic being here. But really, if anybody's got any questions they want to ask afterwards or think about, or when they taste the wines, then just get in touch. I look forward to your orders, and I'll come out and deliver it, and we can have a chat and see where else we can go with wine. Any ideas that you want to have, you say, we haven't done a wine tasting like this, just like the lady has here, saying, oh, we could do some on maybe the kind of Sauvignon spectrum. I'm happy to do. I'm happy to look out. We can do them. We can where we go. We can get some wines out, and we can
do a Pinot spectrum as well. A Pinot Noir spectrum.
Pinot Noir, I love Pinot Noir. Yeah.
So there's two. There's your next two, Kelvyn. Sorted.
Yeah, keep it busy. That's good. That's
We'll be here all night. Not a problem.
We're just planning your work. You're just planning everything you're going to do for the next 3 weeks. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Thank you. And just thank you, guys. Now, you stay safe out there and enjoy the rest of the night and the rest of the wines. Just thank you very much. So thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys. Cheers, Johnny.
Nice to see everybody.
Thanks for organising it. Thank you.
Thank you for coming along very much. Thank you.
Thank you.